Leave it to a bunch of boomers to make a movie about how cool they would be as old-ass spies. It's day 108 of 365. Today's movie, Red. You won't have to leave retirement to join my movie club. It's only $5 a month over on Patreon, and you get access to this show early, as well as exclusive vodcasts and a sneak peek at my upcoming book. Check out the link in my profile to discover more. This movie's directed by Robert Schwentke and stars Bruce Willis, Helen Mirren, and Morgan Freeman as aging retired spies. I think this movie was fulfilling a dream of many of the boomers during the shifting political climate of 2010. It's kind of wish fulfillment, if you will. Half date movie, half action movie, half laxative for the decrepit. I was actually here for Bruce Willis because I've always been a huge fan of his. And if he's gonna make a movie where he's shooting guns, I'm going to go see it. I remember really liking this one when I saw it in the theaters, but I think I almost immediately forgot it as well until the sequel came out. I think I opted for the other Bruce Willis 2010 movie where he plays someone with a gun, Cop Out, which we already talked about on the series. Revisiting this in 2025, I think I understood a little bit more why this movie was made. It was a very confusing time as politics and the internet and information speed was hitting a fever pitch where it felt like the average American was knowing too much, and we felt like we were almost embroiled in some of these conspiracies ourselves instead of just watching them play out in slow motion on the TV like we had used to. We were aching for self-inserts for spy action because we felt like we were in the middle of it, but the angle of bringing in the boomer generation, that had to be the work of magic. And magic it was, because on a $60 million budget, this movie brought in almost $200 million. Not exactly running away with the box office, but for an unproved premise with a bunch of actors doing what is basically a date movie and an action movie, this was kind of a 4-quadrant win. If this is sounding like your bag, let's get into the 3 things that I really liked about Red. The first thing that I really like about Red is the action. This is exactly what you signed up for. It was all over the trailers. And I think Bruce Willis actually turned down a larger role in the Expendables so that he could make this movie. And I understand why. He deserves the action highlight. He just makes it look cooler and is able to bring more character to these kinds of stories than his contemporaries in Stallone or Statham. The specific bit to highlight is absolutely him stepping out of the cop car as it spins through a drift and the bumper sweeps past the back of his calf. I'm sorry, the visual of that is just so good. It is hard for me to ignore. And I love sequences like that that just stick out. When you say Red, that is the first thing that comes to my mind. From there, the fight that we get between him and Karl Urban, who I'll get into more in a minute, that fight sequence just really works. It feels a little bit like the Bourne movies in its stylings, but also is kind of very uniquely itself. And the idea of an old guy going up against a young guy, the guy that trained the guy's trainer, chef's kiss, that kind of stuff just works really, really well. It's those moments that they might seem easy, but the fact that they're easy and working is really the skill on display here. The action across the whole thing works, including the final seconds of the movie in Moldova. Just everything is big and wide and well lit and easy to see. That's exactly what you want from an action movie. The quick cuts in dark rooms where everything's punched in too close and you just can't tell what's happening, that's for the birds. That just makes you feel like there's stuff happening. But in this movie, you can see the stuff happening. And so I want to compliment that. The second thing that I like so much about this movie is Karl Urban. Now, if you've followed his career in the way I have, he's been doing a lot of these side characters previous to 2010. He shows up in The Lord of the Rings, and he's got a pretty beefy part for someone that's not a very big name yet. And he hasn't dropped his great big movie that we will be talking about called Dread. This is his kind of in-between stage, and putting him up with all of these other aging actors to kind of show his chops that he's not just a guy in a suit. He can actually show up with some charisma and with some character. He plays really, really well against Bruce Willis in the couple scenes that they have together. And I respect that a lot. He's such a good actor. He's my guy. Like, he's the one that if he's in something, I'm at least going to check it out because I know he's going to show up well. When we see him all these years later in things like The Boys, he earned that spot by being the kind of actor that can do that role to that degree. Yeah, it's a little Johnny Depp, but it's also a little his own thing, and it works so fucking well. And in this movie, this is the start of him learning how to do those things, how to take a really flat, what could otherwise just be a guy in a suit character and punch it up into something real, something worth watching, and something that can still play against some of the biggest names to do it. All respect for my boy Carl Urban. The third thing that I really like about Red is the way that it mixes tones. Now, if you've never heard 4-quadrant movie, like I said earlier, what that means is people are looking to sell movies to the most people possible. When you're looking for that, you need to fill in 4 quadrants, which is young people, teens, middle-aged people, and old people. That's not the exact breakdown, but that's kind of what we're looking for. In this case, this movie is really trying to sweep in between older couples and younger couples, male and female. And to do that, you need a movie that works as a date movie and as an action movie. The guys want to see something cool, and the gals want to see a relationship play out in a cutesy, cool way. Everyone who's reading books understands that you have to have multiple kinds of emotional engagement for this to work. And so that's what this movie's aiming for. Now, this is a broad generalization. I don't think that all gals want the relationship stuff and probably often enjoy the action. And I think many guys prefer a movie that they can become invested in the relationship so it feels like there's stakes when it comes to the action, which they may or may not care about. But when we're talking about audiences, we're talking about broad generalities, and that's what this movie's aiming for. It is aiming to get boomer couples that want action and romance and younger couples that want action and romance into the theater at the same time. It's trying to speak to both of them by keeping the topic matter topical, as well as bringing in an older audience through these older actors and letting them do the big cool stunts that are normally given to the young people. Helen Mirren being here actually reminds me a lot of the later Fast and Furious movies, which are doing a similar thing, and she honestly gets cooler moments in this than she does in Fast and Furious, so shout out Helen Mirren, I guess. We're finally getting away from the summer of 2010 action movies and into a little indie comedy called It's Kind of a Funny Story, and as always, I'll see you tomorrow.